Nobody in that room was watching the security guard. That was, in Damon's experience, the point. A good security presence is the one the guests never register. The quiet figure near the exit, the still shape at the edge of the crowd, the man whose name badge nobody reads because nobody thinks to look. He had been doing this for 6 years, and he had gotten very good at being the kind of person a room full of wealthy people looked directly through. He did not mind it. He had a daughter at home, and a babysitter who charged by the hour, and a shift that ended at 11. And minding things had never seemed like a productive use of the energy he had. The Meridian Gala was a $2,500 a plate charity event, the kind where the philanthropy was real enough, but the atmosphere was mostly performance. Men in tuxedos congratulating each other on the size of their donations, women in gowns air-kissing above glasses of champagne that cost more than Damon made in a day. He had worked 12 events like this in the past year. He knew the rhythms. Cocktails at 7, seated dinner at 8, a speaker or two, then a demonstration of some kind. Tonight it was martial arts, which was different from the usual string quartet. Victor Ashford, the evening's host, had set up a small demonstration area near the far wall, a square of tatami mat, 12 by 12, with a discreet boundary of velvet rope. Damon had read the briefing. 8th Dan Aikido. 30 years of dedicated practice. Fewer than 200 living practitioners held the rank worldwide. He had noted it the way he noted everything in a briefing, completely, without judgment. He was standing near the east exit, 13 feet from the edge of the mat, when Victor Ashford looked across the room and found him. Before we continue, if you believe that real mastery never needs to announce itself, and that the most powerful person in the room is often the quietest one, please like this video, subscribe to Kindness Tales, and share this with someone who needs to believe in people again today. He had been watching the crowd. That was his job. Victor had been watching something else, the way Damon stood, the distribution of his weight, the particular quality of stillness that a man develops after years of training, and that no amount of event security experience produces on its own. Victor had been a practitioner long enough to read bodies the way other people read faces. What he saw in the security guard near the east exit was something that did not fit the uniform. He walked over. Several guests tracked him. Victor Ashford crossing a room drew attention the way weather draws attention, the room adjusting itself around his movement. He stopped in front of Damon. He said, "I could use a volunteer for the demonstration, someone who looks like they can handle themselves." Damon looked at him. He did a thing that took Victor slightly by surprise. He did not immediately respond. He considered the request with the unhurried patience of a man who had learned that the first thing you say in any situation is usually not the best thing. He said, "I'm on shift, sir." Victor said, "I'll clear it with your supervisor, 5 minutes." Damon said, "What would you need me to do?" Victor said, "Attack me, however you choose. I'll demonstrate the principles of redirection." Damon was quiet for another moment. He said, "And if I agree?" Victor smiled, the particular smile of a man who believed he already knew how this would end. He said, "Then we'll see what happens." Damon said, "One condition." Victor raised an eyebrow. Damon said, "You promise not to cry." The guests close enough to hear it laughed. Victor laughed too, the easy laugh of a confident man, the laugh of someone who found the joke charming because the alternative had not occurred to him. He said, "I think I can manage that." They moved to the mat. The room assembled itself around them the way rooms do when something is about to happen that most people sense but cannot yet name. Priya, the event coordinator, stopped checking her clipboard. The caterers near the service entrance paused. 400 guests turned their chairs or shifted their weight or simply went still, the collective intuition of a crowd that had registered without being told that the next few minutes were worth watching. Victor moved to the center of the mat and settled into his stance, the clean, ancient geometry of a man who had held this position 10,000 times, who had built 30 years of muscle memory into something that looked, to the untrained eye, like simply standing. It was not simply standing. It was the most efficient possible expression of readiness that the human body could produce, refined over 3 decades. Damon stepped onto the mat. He did not take a stance. He stood the way he had been standing all evening, weight distributed, hands loose, face quiet. He looked at Victor Ashford the way he looked at everything, completely, without drama. Victor said, "Whenever you're ready." Damon moved. What happened in the next 4 seconds was witnessed by 400 people, recorded on 11 phones, and discussed in that room for the rest of the evening. It was replayed online several thousand times in the following weeks by people who knew enough to understand what they were watching, and by people who did not know anything at all but could feel it. Damon feinted left, a movement so small it was almost nothing. A shift of weight that took a quarter of a second and committed to nothing. Victor's body responded the way 30 years of training had conditioned it to respond, reading the feint, preparing the redirect, beginning the rotation that would meet the attack and use its momentum. The attack did not come from where the feint suggested. Damon had already moved. Not fast in the way that looked fast, fast in the way that arrived before it was expected. The particular speed of someone who had spent 12 years learning to make his body do things before his opponent's brain could send the message to respond. He was inside Victor's guard in 1 step, under the rotation, in the exact position that 30 years of Aikido had been designed to prevent him from reaching. His right hand went to Victor's left shoulder. His left went to Victor's right wrist. He turned his hips once. Victor Ashford, 8th Dan, 30 years of dedicated practice, fewer than 200 living holders of this rank, landed on his back on the tatami mat with the controlled completeness of a man who had no choice in the matter whatsoever. The room was silent. Damon stepped back immediately. He extended his hand. He said, "Are you all right?" Victor took the hand. He rose. He stood on the mat and looked at Damon with an expression that had several things in it simultaneously. The remnant shock of a man who has just been genuinely surprised, and something beneath that which was more complicated and more valuable than shock, which was the specific delight of a practitioner who has just encountered something real. He said, "What was that?" Damon said, "Greco-Roman wrestling mostly, some judo for the grip. I adapted it." Victor said, "Where did you train?" Damon said, "Coach named Gerald Hayes, 12 years, starting at 16. He trained 3 Olympic wrestlers. I was not one of them." Victor said, "Why not?" Damon said, "My daughter." Victor looked at him for a moment. He turned to the crowd, 400 guests, still completely silent, still holding their phones, still trying to understand what had just landed in front of them. He said to the room, "Ladies and gentlemen, I have just spent 30 years and a significant portion of my life savings becoming one of approximately 200 people on Earth who hold an 8th Dan in Aikido. This man has just shown me something those 30 years did not. He did it in 4 seconds. He did it in a security uniform. And when I asked him why he never competed at the level his talent clearly warranted, he gave me the only answer that actually matters. He looked at Damon. He said, 'His daughter.'" He began to clap. The room followed, not the polite applause of a charity gala, but the real kind, the kind that comes from people who have witnessed something they did not expect and cannot immediately categorize, and are responding to before they have thought about responding. Damon stood on the mat and received it with the same expression he had worn all evening. Quiet, present, entirely unmoved by his own unusualness. After the demonstration, Victor found him at the east exit where he had returned to his post. He said, "I want to ask you something directly, and I'd like a direct answer." Damon said, "All right." He said, "Are you where you want to be?" Damon was quiet for a moment. He reached into his pocket and took out his wallet. Worn black leather, the kind that gets replaced only when it falls apart. And from inside it, he produced a photograph. Small, folded once. A little girl with dark eyes and natural hair in 2 puff buns, wearing a school sweatshirt, grinning at the camera with the absolute confidence of a child who knows she is loved. He said, "Yes." Victor looked at the photograph. He looked at Damon. He said, "I'm not going to offer you a job. You don't need a job. But I fund a youth athletic program that has been looking for a head coach for 8 months. The candidates we've seen are qualified. None of them are you. It's 12 hours a week. The schedule is yours to set. The kids are 10 to 17, and most of them have never been told they're exceptional." He paused. He said, "Gerald Hayes told you, I assume?" Damon said, "Every day." Victor said, "Then you know what it costs a person not to hear it." Damon put the photograph back in his wallet. He put the wallet back in his pocket. He looked at the room behind Victor, the tuxedos, the gowns, the caterers beginning to clear the tables, Priya ticking something off her clipboard with the focused satisfaction of an event going correctly. He said, "Tell me about the kids." The program began the following month. Damon ran sessions on Tuesday evenings and Saturday mornings in a gymnasium 2 miles from his apartment, which was also 2 miles from Zoe's school, which he had selected deliberately when he chose the apartment. He kept his security shifts. He kept his routine. He added 12 hours a week of something that used the part of him that the security uniform had never quite covered. The first Tuesday, 7 kids showed up. By the 4th Saturday, there were 19. By the end of the 3rd month, there were 31, and a waiting list, and a 14-year-old boy named Marcus, who had the same quality of stillness that Damon had had at 14, and who did not yet know what it meant or what it was worth. Damon knew. He showed him. Not by talking about it, by being the kind of person who stood in a room and let the room figure out eventually that they had been looking at something exceptional without knowing it. That was, after all, what Gerald Hayes had done for him. Victor came to watch a session in the 4th month. He stood at the back of the gymnasium the way Damon stood at charity galas, quietly, at the edge, not drawing attention. He watched Damon move between the kids, correcting a grip here, demonstrating a stance there, saying very little, showing everything. He stayed for 2 hours. When he left, he did not interrupt the session. He had promised, after all, not to cry. He very nearly kept it. If this story moved you, please like this video, leave a comment, and share it with someone who needs to hear it today. Subscribe to Kindness Tales for more stories of courage, grace, and the small human decisions that turn out to matter more than anyone knew. And tell us in the comments, have you ever underestimated someone who quietly showed you exactly who they were?